I'm Sam Rose, and you're tuning in to Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitor somehow launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Let's get to it. I was so excited for this conversation, if that's not like terribly obvious, because you've spent your life doing, or at least your career doing something like really hard, which is to take mission-driven brands and make them like very commercially serious, which is, I think, a hard thing to do.
Thank you for acknowledging that. I really do.
I want to hear the story of how you got started in all of this, but let me just sing your praises for a moment. You started at Colgate-Palmolive.
Yep.
I worked at the Colgate building for a while in
You
New York,
did?
actually. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Maybe we knew each other in like an elevator bank.
We must have, yeah. And then, I mean, a decade at 7th Gen, like just climbing over every single function and ultimately the CEO and so much growth. And now you're at one of my very favorite brands that my children have evangelized to me, much to my surprise and delight, because I'm like, oh, you want healthy snacks? Like, yes, please. And they're colorful and fun. And yes, please. So I have a pantry full of your products.
I'm so happy to hear that. Yes.
And I'd love to know like the secret sauce. Let's talk about what it takes to make a values-driven brand grow and like be commercially successful.
Oh my gosh. That's a huge question. I'm glad that we
I can break it down. Sorry.
that we have time. No, I think it's a great one. I think like I would maybe approach the question in two ways. I think first is, what's the mindset that you need to have to like really be able to stay in this work? And then also, what are some of the strategies and tactics that have like helped move the needle, right? From that critical inflection point of like, this is a great idea, this can change the world, to actually like you have a scalable business that's on shelf in Target and Walmart. So maybe I'll start with mindset. I was really grateful that you started the way you did. We're like, it's hard. I think, having especially sort of like started in some bigger legacy brands, observed a lot of big legacy brands through my like Unilever acquisition experience with 7th Gen. I think probably one of my biggest observations is like just how hard it is to like ride against the status quo. It truly is. You're doing something different. And in order to do that, I think you really have to believe in it. You have to like believe in the work and believe in the mission and believe that in your like, at least for me, in my own very small way, I'm doing what I can to like make this world better, even if it looks like a CPG product. Like that's what I can bring. And really making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who also share that mindset, because in those like really hard moments where it's not working or you're losing market share or your retailer thinks it's too small of an idea and needs to see your velocities improve radically on shelf, you need people who are cheering you on. So I definitely think the headspace really matters, and just like truly believing in what you're doing. In terms of like the bigger question around like how to actually do it, for me, especially like, we can probably talk more about this in the conversation, but there's like a huge difference between the world and the categories that I was operating in at 7th Generation compared to the space that I'm in now. But at its core, I think you need a great product. I think it doesn't matter that it's a mission-based product or it's made with better ingredients. Like it has to be amazing at what it does. For us at Unreal, it has to taste great. In my 7th Gen experience, like it actually had to work. It had to clean your clothes. It had to like clean your countertops. And I think like that is the expectation that consumers want. And so no matter what, if you're like thinking of a new idea in the space or like working on brands that have been at this for a long time, I think the product has to be amazing. And it's like my job and the job of these companies to do that by way of better ingredients and better science and, better choices with their profitability. So that's first and foremost. And then the second thing that I have always thought about is really knowing who your competition is. I've always found it really important to take note of who's swimming in the same water as you, but not to think about that as competition. So these are people that are pushing water upstream with you. And certainly in the spaces that I've been, my competition is conventional. I am stealing market share, stealing dollars, stealing household penetration from big brands that aren't necessarily serving consumers the way they have been. And so really having a bullseye on your source of volume is also one of the most important things for how you start to think about things commercially. And then the last thing is really just honestly having an extraordinary mission that you're authentic to. And I think that's for me, it's so much more important that is first and foremost authentic in the company to the employees, to your day-to-day experience with how you're building products, how you're communicating with one another. And then if you're doing that right, that's how consumers are then going to be able to authentically understand that as well. So yeah, just a couple of things that I've observed over my time in
Yeah.
the
What a
space.
great, no, so useful. What a great and useful framework. I mean, okay, so just to recap what I heard, it's got to be a great product, right?
Yeah.
Mission or not, it has to perform. Step number 2, know your real competition. It's probably a conventional brand. They're
Yeah,
probably more capitalized than you. They probably have more market share. This will be an uphill battle, but ultimately everyone, I think, can be generally oriented around wanting to do good things for the consumer
yeah,
or their stockholders, maybe not everyone. All right, there's a gray area there. And then number 3, having an authentic mission and really believing in what you're doing, and not just having it be a marketing angle.
exactly. Yeah, you got it.
And I think on that to build on your third point, you have to operationalize this mission. It can't just be we say that we want to do these things.
You
You
have
have
to do
to
it.
bake it into the dough.
Yes.
What has been the hardest part about that, or the place where you have felt over time oh man, every time I try to do this, there's a disconnect between what we're saying we want to do and how we get it done?
Oh my gosh, that is a great question. It's funny. I teach a class at the UVM through the UVM Business School. That's the practical application of sustainable business models, where I literally teach about how to start to embed this and what it's actually like to work on some of these questions around bringing mission into the decision making process. So I should be able to answer this.
Okay. Well, I'm asking you to compress a curriculum into a minute. So sorry
It's
in
okay. I
advance.
I think I think probably the hardest thing that I have experienced is coming down to the tension point between the right thing to do and what that means from a cost perspective. And that's the tension point in all of this is oftentimes doing new things costs more because it doesn't have the scale and the ease and the accessibility that comes with time, with other brands participating, with growing infrastructure. So oftentimes, especially for brands and companies that are running up against the status quo, you're relying on things that are more unproven, that don't have as much access, therefore cost more for small companies to leverage and embed in their product development process. And for us to make this work, to actually have it be scaled and have somebody make this choice over what they're doing today, we need to do everything possible to make the price points as accessible as we can. So I feel certainly in my career that I have lived, especially through stage gate processes and through the whole product innovation development process, I've lived in so many tiny moments of trying to figure out how we do the right thing without making it hugely expensive, because the more expensive these products become, the more niche they end up being because only certain populations can buy them. And I think for me, the sweet spot is actually how do you get this to scale, and how do these brands and companies become part of mainstream culture and mainstream conversation?
Okay, this is such right. I mean, you're doing it. It's clear that you
are practiced in speaking about this, and I'm grateful to have such thoughtful partnership in the conversation because I think people are really going to learn. Let's talk about cost curves. How, like, where are the levers, right? We're talking about basically structural disadvantages that these small brands have in trying to innovate or grab share or both against incumbents. That's a structural disadvantage. What are a couple of common levers you feel like, and if common to you, maybe sort of like surprising and like black magic to the people
Yeah.
that might be listening to help bend those cost curves earlier? Is it ingredient swaps? Is it co-man partnerships? Is it like how to address packouts or
Yeah.
how to think about retailer programming? How do these smaller brands like grab onto those levers without hurting taste or
Yeah.
performance, whether it's a snack or a baby?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, I think the thing that I always come back to is that growth solves all problems. I think scale is really the answer. And the thing to like keep in mind as you're making short-term trade-offs in the beginning is knowing that how much you're going to be able to gain from a gross margin and a cost profile perspective as you scale. So just like believing in that, and so much of the business case work that I've done with teams over the years, like, tell me where it makes sense. Tell me the scale that this starts to really hunt for us that we can live with, that is sustainable in our business model. And let's go there. But obviously, to get there, we're probably going to need to make different trade offs, whether that be different financial trade offs in our P&L, having different conversations with our board or our stakeholders about, like, what their expectations are. But I think really like knowing where the math starts to make real sense is such an important North Star. But to get there, I guess, I think for me personally, I have found the most value in those contract manufacturer relationships. I think oftentimes, there's ways to get to ingredient pools, like ways that you're starting to like share and shoulder costs with other brands that they work with in order to like make these things possible. And especially at the beginning of a great idea or a new technology, like something that is going to really be the thing to push the, science of biotechnology over to the next side, like lean in on that. It matters less that the person next to you is also using the same thing and more the fact that you're going to be able to leverage it within your products, within your supply chain, within the way that you even think about your logistics and warehousing. So, definitely a lot of friends and partners in those early days are so important to getting to like more critical mass on really expensive things.
Critical mass on really expensive things. It's so true. Like, yeah, we vertically integrated pretty early at a couple of my
Mhm.
businesses, and it allowed us to, and then we spun ourselves into services too. And those two things parked next to each other really allowed us to be a better partner
Yeah.
to the folks that we were on the other side of the table, and ultimately help their businesses grow too, because we kept bringing friends to the table. And to your point earlier about kind of like viewing your competition not necessarily as the competition, but also as just like all the little fishies swimming upstream together,
Yeah.
and like everyone trying to get to the same mission. Like find friends that might be your competition, but like make them more friends than competition, and then like band together to make something better, right?
100%. And so much, especially in like the early days of getting ideas off the ground, it's partnerships, it's great relationships, it's like people honestly being willing to like lean in and help. And I think that's one of the probably the most fun things that I found in my early days at Seven Generation and now at the life stage that Unreal is at, like those relationships with your partners, with your contract manufacturers, with your logistics partners, with your customers. I mean, that makes all of the difference in like getting an idea off the ground.
I'm going to take us on a little bit of a different tack conversationally, and talk about like competition within the space and trying to stand out. Right? Yes, let's be friends, but also how are you going to scale and build a business? And one of the things that I love about Unreal in this like really crowded category of
Yeah.
better for you candy is that it taps into nostalgia. And this is actually a theme that I've been realizing it now. And so I'll make it like official. Well, we're talking about nostalgia like this season on the
Yeah.
podcast. Had the founder of Good Pop on and the chief brand officer of Little Spoon.
Okay. Yeah.
And now you and what all of these better for you brands are doing, yours included, is tapping into like us storytelling about ourselves and the piece of nostalgia where we can really like share in the building of the brand and like in the building of the community consciousness around it. And so with that as setting the table, what I want to dive into is like, how do we make better for you really mean something? Like, what does it have to mean operationally to earn loyalty rather than like, oh, I tried this because I'm like hungry and snacky, and I want something that I don't feel guilty, but gosh, it
Yeah.
didn't taste that good.
Totally. And so I think to your point around Unreal and nostalgia, like that's it. That's the magic. And first of all, like I'm a millennial woman, like my whole world is nostalgia right now. If you were to go on like any of my social feeds, I think there's just this human nature right now to go back to like times that felt happy, in our control, our problems felt easier, the whole world is shifting back to remembering these times. It's so funny even for like my kids, for Gen Z, they're nostalgic to times that they didn't even have. And so
Right.
I think we're all just like grabbing onto things that make us feel good, which makes it such an amazing moment for a brand that has really been designed to take the taste profiles, take the memories of these amazing treats that you had in your childhood, but have them now, but don't sacrifice. So these things that you remember, these tastes that you remember, they can still be yours, but now without the guilt, with less sugar, with better ingredients. And so certainly part of our special sauce right now is just really making that accessible and making it possible for people to overcome this belief that better for you can actually taste extraordinary. And to be honest with you, I mean, that's like why I came to Unreal. I think, like, especially having like lived for so long in this natural world, it's like, okay, whatever I do next, whatever company I land in, the product needs to be amazing. And so, yes, I was like, I need my job as a marketer to be like slightly easier. And so, how
Move
do I
all
make
that work upstream?
yes. How do I make sure that whatever I take on as the next chapter for myself comes from a place of like an extraordinary product? And I remember sitting down with our head of supply chain, and he was like talking about the company, and he had just like put all the product on the table, and he was like, just taste it. Just go home, taste it, and call me back. And I got home, I tasted it, and I called him back. And I was like, how can I get involved with this company? Because these actually taste amazing.
It's unreal.
It is. I have to, not get too far ahead of myself. But yes, truly unreal.
Cards on the table. Your tech stack is held together with duct tape and prayers. If you're a brand founder or COO juggling Shopify, your 3PL portal, 3 different inventory trackers, and yes, that one crucial Google Sheet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orders get lost, inventory counts are fiction, and your seamless integrations break every other Tuesday. Endless Commerce changes the game. One platform for everything. DTC, wholesale, marketplaces, the works. AI-powered forecasting, real-time inventory visibility, and integrations that actually integrate. Teams like Great Jones, Food 52, and Pattern Brands already made the switch. Ready to ditch the chaos? Visit endlesscommerce.com, mention Commerce is Chaos when you reach out, and get 3 months free. Because your ops stack should be your competitive advantage, not your biggest headache. Something that you mentioned just there struck me, like moving things upstream as far as possible for the purpose of really allowing the next to follow function to have its job be like as easy and delightful and effective and scalable and punchy as possible. So marketing can't do its job without like a good product.
Yes.
And good product can't do its job without like a good co-man. And the co-man can't do their job without like good ingredient suppliers.
Yes.
And I remember, as we were building out our product line, and I was so in the trenches for literally for a decade, just like every little, oh, it's such a, I'm touching my fingers right now because it's such a visceral, tactile memory for me of like touching every part of the product. And I remember, so we owned our own 3PL. And
Hmm.
I'm like, wow, there are things about the way that this is packed out right now that like I have to retouch. This is hard. And I'm asking folks on the ground to do a lot of work before we could just get the product out the door, be like a repackaging thing or a stickering thing or a polybagging thing.
Yeah.
And can I move that upstream? Like, can I bring that to the factory and have them, in their kind of cleanliness and scale and focus? Like, can I have them do that touch there? And then thinking about them with an empathetic view, it's like, well, what can I do in the physical design of the product to make their unmolding process 2 seconds faster
Yeah.
so that so that we can make 20% more per day or whatever it is. And so this idea of sort of moving quality upstream
Hmm.
so that you can unlock quality downstream is such a good nugget out of what you're saying. And I wonder if my anecdote inspires any kind of like visceral feeling in you
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I think so definitely product quality. I think that honestly has been such an important learning for me through my CPG career, just how crucial that is every step of the way and how much that has I mean, I've been in CPG for like 20 years, right? So a lot has changed in the world. And even now more than ever with how much information consumers have at their fingertips, how much more vital that is. And so your point around making that top of mind every single step of the way, I think is so important from a product experience perspective, a product taste, how it shows up, how it feels in your hand, how the packaging feels in your hand. Everything is a brand experience. And so really weaving those two things together.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Like it's like how deep can we go? How tight can we knit this textile of the supply chain so that it is self-reinforcing
Yeah.
and like beautiful?
The other thing I would say too along that point, so, obviously product quality is really important. I would
Yeah.
say keeping the proposition as simple as possible is
Mm.
also a really vital aspect to commercial success. I definitely, and I have sat in many tables where there's this existential, probably debate over, do you talk about mission? Do you talk about sustainability, about what your product does? And I have like lived in my 7th gen experience through like various arcs of what leads versus what follows. And I think through that, and now coming to Unreal where it's so clear and it's so
Yeah.
simple, I keep coming back to that now, just as a proof point that you need to make it your proposition, your point of difference, as simple as possible, even if there's a lot of like mission led work, even if there's so much investment in the sustainability of the product or the quality of the product. How do you just get that so simply articulated for consumers? Because that's going to make it easier for them to buy in, quickly understand, and then come back to learn more.
Yeah.
And I definitely think there's a instinct in the spaces of mission and purpose-led brands to like pile on all the amazing things that you're doing. And I think the thing that I've learned the most is to like serve that to people one bite at a time after you've served them like the most important thing that they need to understand about how amazing this product is going to be and the role that it plays in their life.
Okay, now I have so many more questions. I'll ask one kind of specific one just because I'm curious and I want to hear how you frame it verbally. Like, what is that one thing for Unreal?
Taste. I mean, it's taste. For
It's
us, it is mind blowing. Oh my God, I can't believe that something that is better for you can actually taste this great. And I think that is the beauty of that is when you can connect that point with product experience really quickly. I think like if we didn't believe that these products tasted great, this would be a much harder hill to
right.
climb. But I think you got to back it up with great product. But I think for us, this like belief and therefore communication of taste is the thing. It's what everyone wants. They want to feel good. They want to taste something great. They're choosing our products because it serves a happy point in their day. So that's really the thing that we rally around and make sure that people get to experience and share their taste experiences as well.
That idea of belief and asking your customers to believe, that's for the team too. And I think what I heard in what you were saying is that
Right.
like the people creating the product really have to believe too. They have to like that mission has to infuse them, or ultimately it's very hard to have like a team that doesn't authentically believe in the mission of the product and for the product to be obsessively good too.
Of course. And I think one, everyone has to be on the same page with that because there is a lot of tension in that. Oftentimes, like getting to great taste and the highest quality and the most ethically sourced ingredients takes time. And I definitely feel it. So I'm a commercial leader at Unreal. I want things to come to me faster. I want things to be perfect when they show up. I want to be able to check every box for my customers, and I want to make sure that my sales team like has every tool in their toolkit. So there's one part of me that's like, I need it faster, I need it now. And then there's the other part of me that really like understands that these things take time to really like continue to lean into the fact that our taste is extraordinary. We might have to be more patient and not settle for things that aren't all the way there. So that tension needs to stay healthy, but it definitely needs to live and breathe as part of the company culture to make sure that people can understand why, we can't get things as fast as we can, or, this process takes time.
I think that what you're pointing out is one of the things that defines really great leadership like yours is being able to hold that tension and live by your gut. No pun intended in some of it, because there's no way to like what there's no metric that can really express we're moving fast enough relative to the quality standards that we wish to maintain, or
Yeah.
we're maintaining our quality standards highly enough but still growing at an acceptable rate. It's like you can't actually diagnose that. Maybe in retrospect, right? Like you could do a postmortem on
Yeah.
what went wrong, what went right, but you have to be able to follow your gut in that and say, like, these are the things that are sort of the immutable truths about our brand, our product, and our quality, and wanting to also be a business that moves quickly and grows quickly. Like,
Yes.
here's where that line is. It's not, and I don't even know if the right word is compromise. It's just sort of it's balance at
No,
the end of it.
I don't like to use the word compromise because I feel like there you're kind of like giving something up.
Yeah,
I
it's too
think
loaded.
it's just constant like trade-offs and discussion around like what you gain versus what you might need to make up. And that's something that I'm grateful for the number of years that I've spent in this space because I can on one hand be like, well, if we miss this deadline, like that's targets reset. So it's going to be another year until we get a shot at this. But like, I understand why. So let's hold hands on the fact that like we're going to continue to chase this opportunity, but it might just have to come a little bit later. And here's the things that we can do to keep Target, as an example, invested. But yeah, I appreciate leadership tables and cross-functional tables where you feel comfortable just like putting that all out there and being okay with the fact that we can't have it all if we're searching for something that continues to uphold certainly our set of standards.
Yeah. And yet you've like all of these businesses that you've touched have sort of grown spectacularly. So clearly you're really good at that thing. I want to ask about your customers and customer education. My impression, but I think it's well founded, is that like today's customer is better educated than ever. We have more access to information and resources. Also, businesses are meeting us there. They're being more transparent. And that is a rising tide that raises all of the ships. And I wonder if having a better educated customer makes your job easier or harder? Or I bet it's a little bit of both, but like
Yeah.
what about a better educated customer makes it easier and harder? Give me both.
Yeah, I just like thinking that through a little bit. I do think it's both. I'm so grateful for this evolution in access to information that everybody can have. I think it's made us all smarter. I mean, like I can't even imagine now like participating in conversations without being able to like quickly Google something. And so I think certainly it's like it's helped provide everyone with more access to information, gives people the right questions to ask. But as a result, like of everything that's evolved, you have a lot of competition. You have a lot of people vying for attention. And so really making sure that you are being authentic, that your product truths, your product standards, all of these things are authentically delivered, because consumers can go find that. And then they can also go find you and complain to you and tell you, and then potentially do that publicly. So making sure all of that is truly delivering on an authentic consumer experience, while also continuing to be discoverable, to like have people find you interesting, find like want to stay for more. I think that's the other side to this era that we're in, is that, everyone's vying for everyone's attention all the time.
And I wonder then, is there a specific moment that stands out in your memory of where like that tension felt just like, I don't know, the heaviest, or something that like what was the hardest day ever of kind of like navigating that?
Oh, goodness. The hardest day ever of navigating the tension point between like consumers being really educated and then also trying to break through. Is that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
question?
You did a better job of asking the question than I did.
I'm sorry.
Thanks. We can switch spots.
Sometimes, like, sometimes I have to read.
Like, what is she talking about?
It's a tactic that I use to make sure that I'm understanding, honestly, is like repeating a question back. So
You're doing great.
this is more for me. No, I think it's probably in my more recent years of navigating this like natural and emerging brand space where uh, certainly breaking through and vying for attention now is wildly different than it ever has been. And so you can have this like incredible message, you can have incredible creative assets, but if nobody can see them, right, and you're not able to break through in the algorithm and you're not putting the right sponsored dollars behind something, I think like that's the hardest part of being in today's world, is we can have these like incredible messages, we can have these incredible products, but actually getting people to see it and understand it and receive your message is something that feels a little bit like honestly out of my control. And like figuring out expertise in this space is also really tricky. So I would say that's where the tension lies today, is just feeling confident that people are hearing what you have to say.
You did a great job of answering my funky questions. Thank you. um, let's go back into team for a moment and stay in this idea of kind of like, tension a little bit. How do you keep your team motivated when doing the right thing means saying no to big opportunity or
Mm.
retailer reset or any other
Yeah,
difficult moment like that?
trust me, I have had the long tail of my career has had a lot of moments of breaking hearts around the table. I think a couple of things. I think the first is always to remind your team why you're here, and I think um, for me, that's always gone back to the mission of the company, that like even the small things we do every day are better than what other people are doing out there. And that makes a difference. It might not be like the biggest thing that we needed to land or the biggest stage for us, but like every day we're moving the ball forward, and that's taking one bad thing away and adding one of us in its place. And that matters authentically to me. And it's really like, I think a central theme to how you can keep teams grounded on working through hard times, for sure. And then I honestly, being honest and transparent is also so vital. It's like, so sorry, guys, this is the decision that we had to make, and here's why. And you all presented great cases. I understand that for this team over here, this is probably not the decision that you want to hear, but like it's a decision that we're going to make. And I just want to make sure that you feel clear in the why behind it. And so I always default to like real honesty. Sometimes I'm too honest, to be honest with you. That's gotten me in trouble before, but I think that just goes such a long way in having people stay with you, even though they might not love all the decisions that are happening around them.
That reminds me of Ben Horowitz, who's a venture capitalist and a really great business author, or at least I enjoy his writing quite a bit. And I don't know if he coined this, but I know that I recall it from his writing that, bad news needs to travel fast. And if bad news travels at the same velocity as good news travels in the business, then, you're giving respect to each other and ultimately making the business a lot more durable.
Yeah, I think that is spot on.
Is there a time that you can tell us about in recent memory where being too honest got you into a little bit of hot water? Like, why are you telling us this right now?
I don't know if these stories can be because
Okay,
it's just
fine.
I guess like it's kind of just my personality. I am like, call it the way it is.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely has served, I think it served me as a leader just
Yeah.
because people know that I'm going to tell them the truth. It might not always be the right answer. I'm not always making the right decisions, and they might not always like the decisions that I make, but at least I can tell them authentically and on what's happening and why. And that's just kind of how I live my life. And so it's great to be able to like bring that to my profession.
Yeah. I think something that we don't know each other that well, but something that I sense from you and that I really value in partnership and in leadership is that sometimes this idea of telling everybody the truth gets kind of put in this wrapper of just like being harsh or mean or
Mm,
like, I'm just going to level with you. It's like there's an aggression to
yeah.
truth or a perception of aggression. And what I'm sensing from you and a thing that I try to live too is that like the truth doesn't have to hurt. Like it might be a little uncomfortable, but
Yeah.
those are opportunities for repair and for strengthening relationships and communication. And I feel like so often this idea of like the hard truths of business kind of gets bandied about as like a, so I'm just gonna drop it on you. And I think that the truth can be much kinder than
Yeah.
that, you
Yes.
know?
Yes. I totally agree with that. And I think I have always believed that telling somebody the honest truth, whether it might not be something that they want to hear or it might be hard news, is always the right thing. Because sometimes not telling somebody or holding something back ultimately could be holding them back. And I have like found this even in like career conversations where you have to tell somebody that like this isn't working out, and it's like actually that might be the best thing for
Yeah.
them and for us to help them on their journey. So I do believe there can be a ton of compassion in hard messages, and it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me hard to work with. I think it's just like how you're able to really like the way you're able to share hard news, I think goes a long way.
And I think that is so particularly important I mean, I guess it ought to be true everywhere, or at least we aspire for it to be true everywhere, but it feels so aligned with a mission driven brand to be like, look, we're telling the truth to our customers about the product. We're setting a standard. We're going to do that for the way that we orchestrate our team and give each other feedback too, right? There's like a mission in there.
I mean, what you're talking about is values alignment. And so it's like how, like, I join companies because I am aligned with their values. Therefore, the way I communicate, the way I show up every day, then is more easily translated into the work and experience that consumers have because I'm opting into this values aligned system. And I think like that's really where the magic happens is lining up what you personally believe in, how you orient your day, your life, your choice with like how you're bringing those choices into your professional world.
And I think that values alignment ultimately translates into company culture, is what you're saying. Like, you know,
Percent.
it
Yeah.
dropped all the way to the floor. It really does.
It really does. And I think like probably one of the biggest things that I've like learned through my journey with values aligned company and being part of bigger enterprises is that I need to work with people who share the same values that I do. It is like so important. It's how I'm at my best. It's how I bring out the best in other people. And that creates great culture, creates environments where I can thrive, therefore can create environments for others to participate as well.
What I'm going to ask you a really hard question. I think
Oh,
it's a hard question. I
okay, good.
struggle with it. What do you do when that's not there? When that value alignment is not there? Either you can answer this through either lens. You can answer it through the lens of product. I think that's a little easier,
Yeah.
or through the product, the lens of team.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll answer them for myself.
Okay, great.
I can't hang. I think like it doesn't work for me. And honestly, like definitely being part of an acquisition with seven generation into a larger company that did not share the same value systems that we did. That was my life. Like every day was like confronting decisions and work streams and individuals that I didn't share values alignment with. And I think for me personally, choices that have supported me in my career is to like go find the thing that fits. Go
Yeah.
find the environments where your values aligned. Because for me personally, like the energy that I lost, like being in non-values aligned environments was really hard. And so it just took a lot out of me to like sit at tables where I wasn't as values aligned. And it's just so much better for my energy and contribution to the business when those tables are supportive.
Yeah, man, this is bringing up a lot for me. I mean, I've had, it's so interesting because I think, there's the position of a person relative to a business or an organization could kind of be like, on the outside or adjacent, or it can be on the inside. And I'll say that sort of like a general framing is that leadership tends to be the envelope. And that's almost not outside the business, but it's kind of creating a container for culture and for operations and all of these things. And then there's folks inside the business that are like really beautifully making all of the work happen and like making
Yeah.
the engine go. And, I've bought and sold businesses many times over the past few years. And as a like, I don't know, involved investor or operator investor, I've had a couple of experiences where like I almost it's almost like I'm rejecting like I'm having some sort of organ failure because like it'll be like a little thing like we're not talking to each other in a sensible way. Like how can we not be talking? We must talk to each other. And, there'd be like technical infrastructure that's sort of like pushing against that. Old operating systems or
Yeah.
old habits, or I'll give you a great example. Like, does the team communicate to each other via email or
Mm.
through a real-time messaging application? I'm like, I can't do it if it's email. Maybe someone else can, but like I personally am not values aligned with like
The ideas, the things that break us.
things that break us, man. Anyway, this is a totally non sequitur anecdote, but it's so very true. You have to feel values aligned to the thing that you are working within or working around or helping to mold, or it really won't work.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been with Unreal for coming up on 2 years. And like, that's the thing that I love to talk about because I jumped into this rocket ship. It's not a rocket ship that I created. It's not a rocket ship that I even set off to space. So I'm jumping on a ride that was already taking off. But I found a group of people that cared deeply about the product, cared about the sourcing, cared about trying to do the right thing for consumers and in the company. And it just clicked. I was like, great. Like I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so happy to help you build and continue to build our team and infrastructure and strategies to keep this growing because I feel like we're on the same team and we're on the same page with what we're trying to accomplish. And for me, it's been I don't know. I feel so energized being able to just find groups of individuals where you can really make that click. And when you do, like the work just happens. Decisions are easier. You build teams. They care about the same things that you do. Goals are easier to align. Like it just makes the everyday work that much easier.
What is the biggest or most impactful decision
Hmm.
that you've ever made for the business that was actually really easy?
So the biggest, say that question for me one more time.
I'm going to do this all day. I can't be a professor. So there's big decisions that are hard to make, and there's big decisions that are easy to make.
Hmm.
And I spend a lot of time talking about the hard things because it's fun and
Yeah.
hard. But for you in particular, and through this lens of values alignment, like, is there a big decision or a very impactful decision that was just kind of like a no-brainer?
Mhm.
Like of course we're going to do this. And then you look back 3 months later and you're like, yeah, that was like, we nailed it.
Yeah, I think like I'm trying to think of a good example. Probably what comes to mind for me were decisions that I made during my time period leading Seventh Gens.
Wow.
We had some really tough financial years, and thankfully we were under the umbrella of Unilever to like allow us to continue to like be a company. And within that, I think there were like really easy financial decisions to make about categories that we participated in because the financial environment was so hard and the business just like required like such rapid decision making. So like looking at the numbers, looking at the decision through a black and white lens, I was like, of course it makes sense for us to exit this category over here. But I think what became hard about those decisions was the emotion, the legacy, the time, right? And so I think And that's kind of how I explain those decisions as I made them, to say like, okay, just when I purely talk about this through the lens of the business, like, guys, this is a no-brainer. Like, we cannot be in these categories anymore. Like, look at these gross margins. Like, it only hurts the thing that we're trying to grow over here. And so I hope you're with me when we look at the math here and we say like, we cannot go on.
Yeah.
But I also know how hard this is, because like, this has been a huge part of the portfolio. It's been a big part of our legacy. It's been a big part of like how we've talked about the impact that we've made in the world. And I know it feels like we're giving up, but actually we have to think about the thing that we can do better, because we're going to stop putting energy over here on this thing that like we can all agree financially makes no sense.
That's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think like that has for me just been a really helpful like process for decision making, is like recognizing where it's hard. So in that example, like it wasn't hard, it was not a hard decision when you look at the math to say like, we really shouldn't be doing this anymore. But then realizing within the problem that it was the emotional aspect of like how we do this, how we talk about this, how we still feel good making a hard call. And once I was able to like sift that through, it became much easier, I think, to like help people through a hard moment while still doing it in a mission-led, values-led way.
We're nearing the end of our combo, and I'm going to ask you one more like a hard question, and then I'll ask you a couple easy ones. My last hard question is there a decision that you made in the service of the business that you felt was maybe like could have been a big mistake at the time that turned out to be like the really right thing? Like a decision that you really just struggled with, and now in retrospect you're like, no, as hard as that was right.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I would say in today's world where prices are fluctuating, the macro environment is fluctuating, like we've all had to make really tough short-term decisions, right? I think even like someone the other day was like, oh, remember tariffs? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. That was like totally disruptive. Yeah,
Not forgotten.
and maybe it's still happening. I just turned off my newsfeed. But I think, that's a great example of all of these like small things that we are reacting to, which we have to make decisions every day to like keep the lights on, keep things moving forward. And what's very interesting about sort of like leading and living through this time of such disruption at the macro level is that like some of those decisions when we look back in 3 years are going to have been really good ones and some are not. And I think like continuing to have that be an active conversation and continuing to come back to that to just really pinpoint the things that have worked and haven't is really key, because I think we're all like navigating a lot of uncharted water right now in terms of like this is short-term decisions that we have to make.
No further hard questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Last little bit for you, and this has been such a wonderful combo. Where can customers, listeners find Unreal Snacks, and what is the best way for people to find you too and get to know you better?
Great. Well, okay. Big plug for Unreal before we wrap up. You guys,
Let's
these
go.
products are like legitimately amazing. They taste incredible, especially if you are like looking for a better for you treat that, you think you can't have anymore. I promise you it's out there. You can find us so many places now, which is the most exciting part about my world. So Walmart, Target, Costco, Amazon, Whole Foods, Publix, Kroger, like we should be where you are. So definitely look for us in the confection space and give us a try. And you can find me on LinkedIn.
Find you on LinkedIn. Alison, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really fun afternoon, and I can't wait to get to know you better and continue the combo. Thanks for sharing so many great nuggets and frameworks and bearing with my Friday afternoon of hard questions.
Thank you for dealing with me, my first podcast.
Congratulations. Hey, everybody, book Alison. She's great.
Oh, well, thank you again, Sam. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.